Hello and welcome to part 4 of Writers Essential's 12-part novel writing programme. My name is Sarah Hull and this session is called Living, Breathing Characters. This session is all about how to develop your characters from vague outlines to real, breathing people that come off the page. Strong, well-developed characters are an essential part of storytelling. They will strengthen your story and encourage your reader to read on in order to find out what happens to those characters. So you'll probably start with your protagonist, your main character, the person whose story you're telling. And you'll start with knowing a few rough ideas about them. Most likely their name, their age, their sex, whether male or female, where they come from, what they do and what they look like. That is your vague outline. And real that character might already be for you as the author, you need to make them real for the reader. In order to do that, you need to develop them. As we're setting, to develop your characters, I recommend asking questions about them. So again, start with the big things, such as, assuming your protagonist already has a first name, what's their middle name? What's their surname? Maybe even a nickname. What's their job, their hobby, their ambition? Where do they live and who do they live with? Then ask yourself questions about more detailed aspects about your characters. Things like what do they like or dislike? And this could be applied to food and drink and films and music, television programmes, seasons, colours, sounds, anything that your character can like or dislike. Then what about questions like, what would your character do if they were in the house by themselves? What are they afraid of? Then ask yourself questions about even more detailed aspects. Things like, how often do they clean their fingernails? What's their earliest childhood memory? Are they a light or a heavy sleeper? And then you need to apply this to every, and I mean every single character in your novel. Because if you don't develop your characters, minor or major, they can come across as props, not people. I recommend writing out, say, 100 questions and applying them to all of your main characters. Then maybe applying half of that, 50 questions, to your less important characters, your secondary characters. And I recommend jotting down the answers and then coming back to these character profiles and adding to them as you go along. Then you need to give each of your characters a body. So again, as well as the basic things like height and shape and size and skin colour and hair colour and eye colour, think about every aspect of their body. So think about their physical attributes or other physical attributes, such as the size and shape of their ears and their nose and their hands and their feet. Are they smooth-skinned or hairy? Do they have any scars or birthmarks or dimples or moles? Then think about any weaknesses or ailments they might have. Flat feet, for instance, digestive problems, astigmatism. Then think about other things like, have they ever had an operation or broken a part of themselves? Have they ever or do they wear braces? Then think about the parts of their appearance they choose. So what do they look like in the morning compared to what they look like when they go out, maybe to work or out in the evening? What clothes and shoes and hats and makeup and jewellery do they choose to wear? And also think about how they feel in their body. How do they see themselves? And how do other characters see them? And how do these differ? Again, you will spend more time on some characters than others, but I would recommend applying this to every one of your characters. Then give your character a nudge, get them up and moving, and ask yourself, how do they move? So think about their age and their background and their personality. How do these things affect how they move, how they walk, how they sit, how they lie down, how they pick something up? Think about their body and their clothes, and especially what shoes they wear. How do these things affect how they move around? And then how do these things change? How does how they move change, depending on where they are, who they're with, and what mood they're in? And then give them a voice. And this is really important. With most books being written from one, maybe 2 points of view, distinct character voices are a really good way of adding variety to your story. So based on all the details you've just worked out about your character, how would they talk? And rather than using commonly used words or words that people of a certain age or gender or profession or from a certain region normally use, think about what words that specific person would use and make sure every one of your characters has a unique voice. And finally, be wary of creating characters that are either goodies or baddies. People in real life have strengths and weaknesses, so must your characters. So for each character, think about what they're good at and bad at, but also think about their flaws and their redeeming qualities. One of the best ways to explore this is by thinking about each character's agenda. You will early on come up with an agenda for your protagonist, and if you have one, your antagonist. But what about everyone else? This is where a lot of your page-by-page development and tension will come from, the clash of character agendas. So instead of having characters who do good or bad things because they are by nature good or bad, for each character think about what they want and what they are or are not prepared to do to get it. And think about how that changes as the story goes on. How do characters' flaws and agendas lead them astray or bring them into conflict with other characters? Or are there instances of characters, in the end, giving up what they want for something or someone they ultimately decide is more important? In this way, you will create characters that are not just cardboard cutouts, but fleshed out, three-dimensional, almost real breathing people, each with their own history, personality, body, voice and agenda, which will enrich your story. So that when you place one of your characters in a scene in your novel, you will be able to imagine not just how someone might think or feel or behave in that situation, but how that specific character would act at that specific moment. And that is when characters become real for the reader as well as for you as the author. Next month, I'll be looking at voice in part 5 of our 12-part novel writing programme. The live class takes place at the White Horse Bar on the Royal Mile in Edinburgh at 6 p.m. on Tuesday the 1st September. Or you can catch the pre-recorded version online on our website or on YouTube from Wednesday the 2nd of September. See you then.